Good morning. Today we are going to start with our sixth lesson of your history textbook, that is beginning of the freedom movement. Now, as Siddhi already said, and as I told you in the previous lesson, we had learned about the social and religious reforms. Okay, we have seen various reformers who have worked to bring about a change in the Indian society, that is the Indian Renaissance. Okay, a change in the Indian society. Now let us see the beginning of the freedom movement. Okay, so the first thing here we are going to talk about nationalism. First, let's talk about nationalism. Okay, what is nationalism? Nationalism is a feeling of love and respect and pride for the nation. There was a new consciousness and an awareness, a new sense of being an Indian, of belonging to India that was developed among the Indians. Okay, so that means all the people of India of various groups, okay, irrespective of their religion, they came together so that they could political organization of their own. They wanted to be free from the British rule. Okay, so a feeling, that means a feeling of oneness, of coming together, that is known as nationalism. Okay, and there were many factors which led to the growth of nationalism, and because of this there were many factors, okay, which led to the growth of nationalism among the Indians. That is a feeling of oneness. Everyone, all the Indians, they came together. A feeling of nationalism was instilled in them to fight against the British. See, they knew that only if they come together, irrespective of their caste, religion, race, only then they can contribute together and remove the British rule. So let us see all the factors which led to nationalism one by one. First is the centralization of administration under the British rule. Okay, so it had centralized administration. That means, as I already told you, they wanted to build a political organization of their own. That means they needed a centralized administration, then brought the nation under one roof. Now see, before the British, okay, Indians were not like this. Okay, the kings, the princes, the kings, the prince, okay, they were in their own world. Common people were treated differently. All were busy in their own world. Okay, all were settled according, all had their selfish needs, we can say. But after the British came, what I told you, a feeling of nationalism among the people. Okay, everyone came together. That is known as coming under one roof. The entire nation, the British, in fact, we can say, brought the entire nation under one. Then there was development of transport and communication. Okay, this also we have seen in our previous lessons that the British had started developing India. Okay, they had started the transport and communication in India, isn't it? I hope you'll remember this. Okay, but even though they started it for their selfish needs, okay, we know that they had started it for their selfish needs so that they can take the goods from India to England. Okay, but their step of developing the transport and communication, it became beneficial for the Indians at that point of time. Okay, for the people of India, because what happened because of the sea, because increased network of transport and communication, India, it was easy for them to come together, to communicate with each other, to work together so that they can remove the British rule. Okay, so to fight against the British, the people of India, they made use of the transport and communication system, which was started by the British. Okay, then instilling a national feeling, that is a feeling of nationalism, a feeling of oneness. So all these things, okay, that is bringing India under one roof with the development of transport and communication, keeping a feeling of oneness. All this is termed as centralization of administration under British rule. Okay, it means that it was the now the power was not in the hands of the king. Okay, but it was It was with the people, with all the common people, all the kings, everyone came together under one roof, and there was no single ruler. Okay, here you can see how there was change, how there was a development in transport and communication. And here you can see a picture of all people coming together, holding the flag of India. Then the next is economic exploitation of India. Now see, this also we know that India's wealth, okay, it was in the hands of England. Okay, and I told you that England was earlier known as a golden bird, isn't it? That is a sone ki chidiya. Okay, but now India was left with nothing because the policies of England. We had seen what all policies the British had laid on India, isn't it? They had put a burden of taxes. The people of India were unemployed. The artisans, okay, they were their profession, their occupation was stopped. Then the farmers, they had to pay huge amount of taxes, and if they failed to do so, what had happened, they were asked to give their lands, isn't it? And we had seen that a famine had also occurred before that, and at that time also the British did not help the Indians, and Indians were just were left out. So all these things created economic exploitation in India, that India was left with no money, no economy. So all these are the factors, okay, which we are seeing one by one. These all factors led to the growth of nationalism. Because of all these factors, all the people came together and a feeling of nationalism arose among the people. Then the next is the impact of Western education. Okay, we know that England had started Western education in India. Okay, and because of Western education, we know that universities had started. People started becoming more aware. People came to know what is right, what is wrong. All the superstitious belief of the people was slowly declining. Okay, so Western education exposed Indians to democratic principles. Okay, who had exposed the idea to the idea of democratic principles to the Indians? It was the Western education. Okay, only because of Western education, the democratic principles, people started following the democratic principles. Okay, now what are these democratic principles? Let me tell you. It is rationalism, okay, rationalism, then humanity, scientific attitude, that is treating each and everyone equally, then applying only beliefs, okay, that is in our day to day life, which has a proper reason behind it. Okay, that means not just blindly following anything. It has something, there should be a valid reason behind it. A proper knowledge has to be there, that is known as rationalism. Okay, then humanity means treating each and every individual equally. No, here men and women, child, each the rich and the poor, everywhere, everyone are considered equal. That is known as humanity. Then scientific attitude, that means believing in science, only believing in science. The belief of superstition was vanished. That is known as keeping a scientific attitude. So all these things are the rationalism, humanity, scientific attitude. These are known as democratic principles, and these democratic principles was given to Indians by the Western education. The new ideas of justice, liberty, and equality, democracy gave a modern outlook and scientific temper. Okay, then the new ideas of justice, giving justice, liberty, each and everyone has their own right. Equality, all individuals are considered equal. Democracy, that means people are given importance. People are the ones who are going to rule. Okay, all these things, this all teaching was given by the Western education. So we can say the impact of Western education was also a plus point to develop for the growth of nationalism in India. Next is the study of ancient Indian language. Okay, so the establishment of Asiatic society in Bengal. So this was also established by the British. That is, the British only established the Asiatic society in Bengal. Scripts of various languages were published. Okay, So this institute was started so that Indian cultures could be studied. Okay, see, this also about this also. See, everything students is connected. Every part of the lesson, whatever we are learning, is connected with the previous one. See, in the previous one, we know that in order to start with the Western education, also the foreigners, that is the Britishers, they had studied in depth about Indian culture, isn't it? I had told you about this. So the same thing. Okay, that means all these institution it had started so that the Indian cultures could be studied in depth. Okay, about everything about the past, what people were following at that point of time, everything was being studied. Manuscripts of various languages were published, discovered rich and unique ancient culture of India. And by their study, what did they discover? They discovered rich and unique ancient cultures. We that India has a lot of culture. India, we have no country, okay, in the world following so many religion and everything. Okay, so India, they were liking to study in depth about the ancient culture. So what they did, they discovered rich and unique Indian culture. Then the Bandarkar Oriental Research Institute is working since last 100 years in Pune. Okay, this is an institute. Even this is working to study about more about here we will find one will find more about the ancient cultures of India, and this is located in Pune. And what is the name of the institute? It is Bandarkar Oriental Research Institute. Okay, then here you can see the picture of Dr. R.G. Bandarkar and Dr. Bhau Daji Lad. Okay, these people, these personalities, okay, they are also known a lot for their work, their contribution to the Indian culture and Indian tradition. Their work is considered to be a great attempt to understand the study of ancient culture. Next factor is the press. Press means the contribution of newspapers. Newspapers such as Darpan, Kesari, Amrit Bazar, Maratha, etc., rendered a valuable service in bringing about political awakening in India. Okay, we know that the contribution of newspaper, it plays a very important role because it is not possible to go and communicate to each and every Indian, isn't it? So we had seen many leaders, many reformers, they used to directly write everything in the newspapers. They used to publish everything so that the common people could read it. And we know that newspapers were also published in the language of common people, isn't it? And why this was done? This was only done so that the common people could read it, common people could understand and believe in only what is reality. Okay, that is the reason the newspapers are considered to be a very good source. Okay, so even newspapers is a very important factor that leads to the growth of nationalism in India. And what all were the principles of newspapers? It spread modern ideas. It criticized the British. That means all the wrongdoings of the British was directly written in the papers. Then it encouraged people to unite. It encouraged the feeling of nationalism, that is oneness. Even this was brought out, was told to the people with the use of newspapers. So newspapers acted as a very important source to bring about unity among the people. Okay, so what all factors we learned till now? First, we saw the centralization of administration under British rule. Then we saw the economic exploitation of India. Then the impact of a Western culture. Okay, then the study of ancient Indian language and the contribution of press, that is newspapers. Okay, so this was about all the factors that led to the growth of nationalism in India. Next thing we are going to see is about the Indian National Congress. Okay, so the Indian National Congress, it was first held on 28th December 1885. See, I prepared the slide for you in such a way so that you will easily understand it. Okay, rather than a paragraph. So when it had started, the Indian National Congress started on 28th December 1885. And which was the place? It was Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit Pathshala in Mumbai. That is a school in Mumbai. Pathshala means a school. And what was the name of that school? Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit Pathshala. Okay, and how many people had attended this meeting? It was 72 members. That means 72 members had attended this meeting. And the president of the Indian National Congress was um, Yomesh Chandra Banerjee. Who was the president? Was Yomesh Chandra Banerjee. Okay. Now, what was the objective? What was the objective behind establishing this Indian National Congress? See, at the start only I told you, we saw that the Indians, they needed a centralized administration, isn't it? So centralized administration means an administration of their own. They did not want the British to rule over them. So that is the reason they had started with the Indian National Congress, okay, which is going on till date. You all know about Indian National Congress, about a Congress. Okay, so it had started on 28 December 1885. The objective behind this was to create a feeling of oneness among Indians. That means nationalism, a feeling of nationalism, then to understand each other's problems and views, to understand what problems of people are facing and what are the views of the peoples, views of the Indians. That was one of the reason. The next objective was to take efforts for the development of a country. Okay, that means they came to know only if they come together, only if they work together, they can achieve something, they can develop the country. So these were the objectives of the Indian National Congress. What were the objectives? First was to create a feeling of oneness among the Indians, then to understand each other's problems and views, then to take efforts for the development of the country. And what were the principles of the Indian National Congress? The principles were of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Okay, fraternity means brotherhood, a we feeling of togetherness. That means a mutual support within a group. So what were the principles? The principles were liberty, equality, fraternity, and the other were the objectives. Do not get confused between the objectives and the principles. The next we are going to see is about the modern. Now you all must be wondering that the Indian National Congress had started. So now what was this moderate phase? Okay, let me tell you, the Indian National Congress was divided into two parts. Okay, it was divided into two parts. That means the first into two groups, we can say. So that two groups were, the first was the moderate ones, the moderates, and the second were the extremists. Okay, and the the time period of their ruling, okay, is known as the moderate phase. First, let us see about the moderate phase, then we shall see about the extremist. Now, the Indian National Congress leaders in the early 10 years had moderate aims. That means in the Indian National Congress, up to 10 years, okay, everything was going on good. But later on, they some changes had taken place. Now, what was this? Later on, later in the Indian National Congress, it was divided, as I told you, into two parts. That is the moderates and the extremists. Okay, now see, when the Indian National Congress had started, no, they had highly educated people, but then they started groupism. Everyone, the thinking of the people within that group started to change. So the moderates and the extremists, both the groups have two different thinkings. So the thinking of the moderates, let's see the thinking of the moderates. They did not want to overthrow the British rule or kill the British officers or start a revolt. See, this sentence itself tells us that they needed a peaceful means. Okay, they did not want to attack the British. They did not directly want to go and kill the officers so that they get the powers in their hand, or they wanted to start a revolt. Nothing. That means they wanted a peaceful means. So for this thing, what did they do? They believed they wanted to bring about a gradual change through constitutional remedies. Okay, through what? Through constitutional remedies. Constitutional remedy means the without doing any harm to the British. Okay, that means only through peaceful methods without harming the British. As I've written here, they did not want to kill, nor they wanted to start a revolt or throw the British government, but they wanted to put demands. Okay, they wanted their demands to be fulfilled, but through peaceful means. So for this, what did they do? They wrote petitions to the British. Okay, that means whatever they want, they started writing in a peaceful manner. Okay, thinking that the British one day or the other will fulfill their needs. Okay, so this was the thinking of the moderates. And who were the leaders of the in the moderate phase? You can see it was Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, and Surendranath Banerjee. Now there were many leaders. Okay, so few of them, the important ones, are Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Khan Mehta, and Surendranath Banerjee. And the these moderates were there in the Indian National Congress from the year 1885 to 1905. Between which period were these moderates were present in the Indian National Congress? It was 1885 to 1905. Their demands. Now, what were the demands of the moderates? Okay, now whatever was the demand, as I told you, it was only through peaceful means, that is by writing petitions, by writing applications. Their demand was greater share of Indians in the administration. Okay, that means in the administration work, they wanted more Indians to participate there with the British, more schools and hospitals. They demanded for more schools, that is for more education and hospitals. Cutting down of the military expenses. That means whatever was the money for the military should be lowered down. Then more jobs for the educated Indian. Now, because of Western education, people were more and more educated. People started becoming literate. Job opportunities and freedom of press. These were the demands which were put up by the moderates, but only through petitions and through peaceful means. Then comes the extremist. Now, the extremists are just the opposite. Okay, they are the opposite of the moderates. Now, in what terms? Let's see. Ideological differences among the members of the Indian National Congress. They believe that the national movement could only be successful through a strong and aggressive approach. Okay, so what they wanted to have only an aggressive approach. That means to fight, to go against the British, to work against the British, publish in newspapers, so to criticize the British. This was the main aim. That means they were just the opposites of the moderates. They used the medium of newspapers, national festivals, and national education to bring about political awakening. Now, see, we have already seen that newspapers play a very important role to awaken the minds of the people. So, same thing they did here. The extremists, they use newspapers so that they could criticize the British. Okay, so that they can write against the British because they want their needs to be fulfilled, but in an aggressive approach. Okay, that means they are very angry people, we can say in short. Okay, and what they did, they started national festivals and national education. Now, national festival means they had organized Shivaji Jayanti and Ganesh Mahotsav, which we celebrate today, see, on a large scale. Okay, it is a very famous festival. Okay, now in few days, we are going to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi, isn't it? So this festival was also started by the extremists. And what was the reason behind it? They wanted so the people to come together. Okay, to bring a unity. These were the reasons why the festivals in India were started. Okay, it had only started to bring the people together. Now, see, when you celebrate festivals at your home, many of your relatives come, you go to your relatives' house, isn't it? So there is unity among the people. So which festival had started? The Shivaji Jayanti and Ganesh Mahotsav had started during the tenure of the extremist. Then in the Mandalay prison, Lokmanya Tilak wrote Gita Rahasya, whose core was philosophy of Karma Yoga and stressed that people should always be in action. Okay, so now why this Monday? Why Lokmanya Tilak went to the jail? Okay, let's see. Okay, see, because he had been criticized by the British. Okay, that was the reason he had he was sent to jail. But there also he wrote this. He wrote a philosophy of karma yoga, and he stressed that people should always be in action. It means that he motivated the people to fight for their rights. Okay, it was his main aim that people should come together and people should directly fight for their rights. They did not believe in going and convincing the British or writing petitions through peaceful means. No. What was his main aim? His main aim was to just people should go and fight with the British and fight for their rights, fight for their justice. So all these extremist leaders, okay, such as Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, okay, Bal Gangadhar Tilak it was, and Bipin Chandrapal, all these leaders, okay, their main aim was to only make the people aware of everything, and they only wanted that a lot of that lots of people should come together. That is only if lots of people come together, it won't happen. If you want a mission to be successful, okay, it won't happen with one or two people or 5 to 10 people. It need lakhs of people to come together. Okay, so that is the reason he wrote in the book in Gita Rahasya that people should come together and people should be in action. Then let us see about the epidemic of plague. Okay, in the year 1897 there was an epidemic of plague. Now see, in the previous lesson we had seen that there was a famine. Okay, and in that famine also thousands of people had lost their life, isn't it? In the start of the lesson also I told you. So here in the year 1897 there was an epidemic of plague. Okay, who knows what is an epidemic of plague? Who will tell me through the chat? It means a disease which is spreading very fast because of rats. Okay, because of rats. That is known as plague. So this see, now also we are having epidemic of COVID, isn't it? And we know how it is affecting everyone. People are suffering. Many people have lost their lives in the battle of COVID-19, isn't it? So at that point of time, in the year 1897, there was an epidemic of plague, and where it was? It was in Pune. And because of this, what was the impact? What was the outcome of this plague? There was thousands of death. Okay, thousands of people died, had lost their life in this plague. Inhuman and oppressive policies of the British. And now see, because of this, we see even though Indian National Congress had started, the rule was still in the hands of the British, isn't it? So the British, they sent one of their officer, Mr. Rand, okay, to go and help the people in Pune. Okay, or officer named Rand was sent so that he can go and help the people of Pune, but he did not do anything. Okay, he did not help the people were still dying because of the plague. So because of this, there were these Chapekar brothers. You can see the image. Okay, they got so angry because of the oppressive policies of the British, because of the unhuman treatment, that they directly went and killed him. Assassination means killing. Okay, so what did they do? They killed that British officer, Mr. Rand. Now because of their work, okay, because of their fault, Lokmanya Tilak was imprisoned. Okay, now why Lokmanya Tilak was imprisoned is because they thought that Lokmanya Tilak must have sent him. Okay, they thought that he must have sent these Chapekar brothers to go and fight against the to go and kill the British officer, but this wasn't true. Okay, this not true, but still he was imprisoned because of the fault of Chapekar brothers. Okay, so this is all about part of the lesson. Okay, the second part, we won't be doing it today. We will be doing it in the next class. Okay, because chapter, and if I teach everything together, you will be confused. So I hope you have nicely understood the lesson. Okay, I'd made the presentation also very good so that you can understand each and every terms, each and every year, place, when it had happened. Okay, so now let us see how much you'll have understood. Some only 21 to 30 raise your hand. The rest please lower your hands.